Evening, ladies and gentlemen. Isn't it nice to be back? Welcome to this evening's General Management Committee. As always, we start with a public participation session. This is an opportunity for the public to pass comment on this evening's agenda. This is your only opportunity this evening, because once the meeting starts, it's for councillors only. I see we have two members of the public. So would you like to? Yeah, excellent. Would you be able to provide your name, just so that Claire can get, if we need to get in contact with you, it won't go in the minutes or anything.
No problem. My name is Michelle Alford, and I've lived here in Shaftesbury for over 50 years. I have some major concerns after living here. The first one that I'm concerned about is the stone walling concerns which we have in this town. I'm meaning of Shooters Lane and also Impulse Street by Ox House. The wall in Shooters Lane is coming out quite badly at the moment. An elderly lady fell there the other day because the handrail was all cordoned off and she could have been seriously hurt, which might have been detrimental to the council. But unfortunately she was, well luckily she wasn't. But that wall has been out for a long time, it's falling more, and I think it needs looking at. It's been going on too long. Visitors are walking, it's dangerous there. No, it's cordoned off, but it needs to be looked at. Same with Binport by Ox House. That's a Thomas Hardy. In his novels, he mentioned Ox House, that is a visitor's attraction, and you've got aging around the wall there that has all been coming out for many, many years. And I would like it, please, looked at, because it's bad for the town when visitors arrive here. And secondly, tree concerns. Now, I live in Enmore Green, and we've had trees planted, lovely. I'm not against tree planting. There is a rowan tree planted in a child's play park. I don't know if you realise rowan trees are poisonous to young children when they haven't turned red berries. If they're in red berries, they are a medicinal herb, but they are green and poisonous and make children seriously, seriously sick. And I've had some major concerns from mothers that these berries can be picked at the moment by young children if they're not supervised. And I would like that tree removed, and please, please do so urgently. And the hedge that's been planted around there, that play park is left clear for parents to see small children in there in case of any unforeseen things happening to them. There's a hedge that I'm concerned will grow and grow and won't be kept. So that concerns me also, and it concerns a lot of mothers in the village. The next thing is the town rubbish in the King's Arms car park. I know we've had COVID. The rubbish is put there in that trolley bay, stinking. We had 5 coaches in the other day. The rubbish was picked up, and then the bag had split, and there was rubbish all in that place. I'm a litter picker here in Shaftesbury. I pick up enough rubbish from the public. And I think the council chap could look behind him and picked up the eggshells, the egg boxes, the stinking cabbage that was there when these coaches were in visiting our town. I picked it up myself as a litter picker, but I don't expect to pick up my plates and then they work together. They do a hard job, but please, could you move behind the supermarket, the old supermarket there is another trolley bay. Behind that supermarket, there is where they used to put the trolleys in the car park, and away from where the coaches are coming in and viewing all that rubbish. It stinks. And I've noticed, as a litter picker, I've watched you get flies in there as well. So 2 people have called up and tipped their rubbish there, which, perhaps you don't see, but I've got time to watch it. The next thing, I'm sorry if you don't go on, but the next thing is Castle Hill. Have we renamed Castle Hill? Castle Green? I mean, I've always known that it's Castle Hill. I keep hearing Castle Green. We've got a poster here for Yeovil, Castle Green. 4 people ask me where Castle Green is. Castle Hill is our historical town hill. It's called Castle Hill. I would wish, please, if people could promote Shaftesbury, it's Castle Hill, not Castle Green. How come it's got called Castle Green? That's my other concern. The next concern is with Tim Cook. I hope you received my email about the building site opposite the King's Arms, which you say could be an eyesore if we don't put proper homes in there. But I look at it every day and it's an eyesore. I picked up rubbish, 4 bags just lately in there, with masks, paper, litter. This same place is an eyesore. I got in touch with the company myself after 5 phone calls to have permission permission to go there. And I think they need to tidy it up again. It's a mess. We've got coaches coming in. Look at the mess. At the moment it's green with grass, but underneath that there's rubble, there's cement bags. You're going to have trouble there if you're not careful with travellers because that fencing is not safe. Can it not be cordoned off with the rest of the fencing until someone decides what is going to be put there? Preferably, it would be nice for a car parking there, or a bus station, or a coach track. But that would be unreasonable if you can't afford it, obviously, to purchase that. And that really is my main concerns. They're only small. I know you're this committee, but I will come to the next recreation ones and I will follow my complaints through. I am representing a number of people who won't come here tonight because of the behaviour that's been going on. They feel very vexed. And I think as a new modern council, you can be positive this year and amazing and bring this council up to the high expectations that people want of you. You're good people. Visit round your town, have a look and see what's going on. And we can get this town back on its feet, but you need to help us. You know, I work in the town, I deal with the public, I hear the moans about parking. I know you're doing the best. I hear the moans about the buses coming in when people are walking in the high street. I think you need to listen to your public here. And it's very important that we keep this historical town in shipshape, especially those walls. Thank you.
Thank you. There was quite a few points there, so I tried to make some notes as we went along, so I apologise if I miss everything. Anything? Okay. Just to try and, I think that would be greatly appreciated by the clerk. Just to try and give a few answers to some of those points. The issues around Shooters Lane and Bimport, because they are public rights of way, fall within the realm of Dorset Council. We've made them aware of that. They are looking to action that, and we've offered our support. You know, so sadly we can't expedite any action there, and I apologise, but Tim does moonlight as a Dorset councillor as well on our behalf. So I'm sure would be happy to make contact or not.
I mean, you know, they just spent 10 million buying St Mary's, 10 million tucked away, you know, even volunteer on it. And then, I mean, I'm not against St Mary's, but 10 million, it seems to go to Bournemouth Pool, and we're on that verge here. We need pressure on these people to get those cases.
Actually, just clarify that we have our we've had weekly fortnightly meetings with the Dorset Highway officials, and the matter's been discussed several times. They are onto it, so they can only act at a certain speed because the wall doesn't belong to highways, it belongs to the landowner, and so they can put pressure on the owner of the wall. So it is in hand, rest assured. What I think we should be particularly forceful on is due court, because that is a housing association. That wall has been coned off for 10 years, if not 15.
Yes.
And it's a listed wall, and the housing association should be ashamed of themselves. But we need the enforcement officer to actually take action, that the wall should be repaired and made safe. As a
Is that something that we put through to planning and highways to possibly action? Excellent. Yep. In terms of the rowan tree in the play park, we didn't plant that. The clerk will contact the grounds crew tomorrow and action its removal.
Yes, please.
In terms of the hedges, if the hedges were planted by us on our land, we will maintain them to the same high standard that we maintain all other hedges around the town. We are keen to try and support biodiversity, hence why we want to try and use more hedges rather than fences. But rest assured, we will be managing that in line with our other hedges. In relation to the issues that have been experienced in the Kingstank car park, we are contracted on behalf of Dorset Council to do street cleansing. That is the designated pickup. Dorset Council are aware of that. We have expressed our concerns to them, and we're hoping that they will take those on board, because you're right, it isn't the best welcome to Shaftesbury sign we could have created. In terms of the naming of Castle Hill and Castle Green, the sort of parkland at the top is what's referenced by Castle Green. Castle Hill is normally for the mound. I think that's probably as much quite useful for distinction purposes. You can go for a picnic on Castle Green. You probably couldn't go for one on Castle Hill. So that's sort of the logic there, if that helps. But Castle Hill is most certainly there because of its historical significance, and it's just round the corner there, isn't it? The ATS, the old ATS land, in terms of the upkeep, that is private property. We don't have a say over the state of repair or cleanliness of private property. If you want to let your house fall to rack and ruin and, you know, pile rubbish up in the front garden, you know, you are, as long as it doesn't cause a health hazard, you are legally entitled to do so. I'm not sure if that's something you want to flag.
Yeah, all the rubbish collection I can pick up with Dorset Waste Partnership and through us as the contracted organisation. The old ATS site, yes, maybe a contact from the county councillor and maybe a contact as well from the town council. A joint effort to say that we've been made aware of it. It's becoming an eyesore, and with tourism on the up and staycations on the up, we want to present as the best view of Shaftesbury as you do. And the Duke Court Wall, as Councillor Proctor's just mentioned, that's again a gentle email to begin with, to ask those people to acknowledge the concerns and acknowledge the state of those and the Shooters Hill Wall too, might just kickstart somebody into thinking, oh well, we've got a responsibility, let's step up and get on with it. So I'll action those, and I'll copy you in to let you know what any results are, any responses from those concerns.
You should have like this, I think Zoe and Century might be.
Yes.
And in terms of the behaviour of some of my counterparts, that behaviour does not meet with mine, or I'm sure people won't mind me speaking on their behalf, our expectations of how someone in elective office should act. But that is a matter for those individual councillors to assess and make a judgment on. But I fully expect this evening for us to meet the highest standards of the Code of Conduct and the known principles, and I'm sure my colleagues will assist me in doing that.
And that's what Shaftesbury people want from you.
Well, most certainly, and they also, yes, and they also want us to deliver, because with the best will in the world, they pay their council tax with an expectation we're going to spend it on them making their lives better. That's what I endeavour to do every time I come here, and I hope my colleagues would support me in that. Thank you for coming. And if there are any other points, you're more than welcome to stay, and we would really encourage you to do so. Brilliant. Kerry, any questions, comments?
Okay, a technical one. Is the Zoom working? So I can't seem to get it to.
Oh, the Zoom link.
Yeah. All I've got is the entry page to the general management meeting.
No.
Well, he's a
I beg
troublemaker.
your pardon. You're in now, Gary. I'm so sorry.
You have passed the gate.
So I'm recording the meeting through the internet from the meeting I'm in.
Got it.
Andy, anything you want to add during public participation?
No, thank you.
No. Okay, lovely job, mate.
Pleasure to be back and see all your local faces.
Oh,
Paris.
lovely. Okay, then we'll formally start the meeting. Item number 1, apologies. Do we have any apologies?
I've received apologies from Councillor Lua. He's waiting for a hospital appointment and was uncomfortable about meeting in person when it might risk him delaying the entry in hospital.
That's very, very fair. Any other apologies?
Sorry, no, I haven't, Chair. So we are missing George Hall as well. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That's it.
Okay. All in favour of adopting the apology? Lovely. I'll second. I'll propose Alex and second. That was unanimous.
We've done that in reverse order, Chair.
Number 2, declarations of interest. As always, if something comes, yep, Tim.
If I can just say that due to my position on the Northern Area Planning Committee, I won't be taking part in the planning applications. Okay. Could I possibly politely ask that
be brought to the front of the agenda?
No, I was thinking more to the end of the agenda, so I can
So
I can go home and get my tea. But
okay, thank you for the declaration. I don't have an issue with that. Anyone have an issue with moving the agenda around to accommodate Tim and his tea? Excellent, okay, as no one's
so final to
objected.
the end.
As always, if something comes up during the course of the meeting, just shout. Numbers.
Sorry, just had a message from Councillor Hall. He is going to be late, but he does intend to be here.
Okay, excellent. We look
Okay.
forward to seeing him in due course. Item number 4, minutes. Without John, who has read them.
I've read them, but I wasn't there, so I don't know if they were.
Okay. Anyone who read them, who?
I'll propose, Chair,
Excellent. So we have a seconder for the minutes.
en bloc.
On block. Excellent. That's seconded. All in favour that the act minutes. Lovely. That's unanimous. Moving on. No, the numbers have all gone skew with.
Okay, so we're at reports now, Chair.
Reports is number 4. Moving on to reports. Does anyone have any questions on the reports?
Not a question, but an additional update for the committee. Bree and I went to see the new football pitch today, and we have reached practical completion on time and on budget for the project.
That's so good. You should say it again.
On time and on budget.
Kerry, did you get that? Excellent.
Publicly funded project.
Yes. And amazing work by Bree, the contractors, the football club, Alex and the team. Well done.
A true collaboration.
Yeah.
And just to update councillors that we will have a draft lease for approval at the full council meeting next week to ensure that the loan gets paid back as well.
Excellent. Even better. And
So the rent is paid on time, you mean, Alex?
Yes, including
yes,
the loan.
and we support sporting provision for the
Yes.
many young people and a lot of people in the town. Phil.
Just to clarify, because the football club will probably make the point that it's a publicly funded loan that they have to repay. So it's not quite generosity to provide it free of charge.
No, that's true, but it does mean that it's at no cost at all to the taxpayers of Shaftesbury. So,
Matt, you had your hand up?
I was just going to say, can we have a 6-a-side football match between councillors there?
I did actually raise the possibility of a council versus football club match to open the thing. And do you know what? I think they were a little bit concerned we might be tackling too hard.
You might be.
Okay, lovely. That's absolutely fantastic.
All right.
That's fantastic news. So I said congratulations, well done. And we obviously look forward to celebrating that with the football club and the community at the official opening at a date and time to be agreed.
Yeah.
Tim, can I just clarify, Chair? We're not on time, we're before time, are we not?
Today was the day that was contracted for the, the builder
I thought
to
it was-
finish. Our target originally was by the end of this month.
Mhm.
So in that sense, yes, we're well ahead of time, but the contracted date was today.
Excellent. Lovely. Anything else you want to add to your reports?
Chair, I can save mine for the 8:30 allotment item that's on the agenda.
Excellent.
Same with me.
Okay, brilliant. Moving on, item number 5, financial quarter 1 report. Any questions or concerns from any members?
One question, Chair. Clark as RFO, are we still following best practice guidelines of the balance of reserves in different accounts, or does that not come into this?
Yes, Chair, we're on track because when we started, Councillor Cook, when we started this financial year, we had brought our reserves back up to the 3-month recommended. We are also in a much better position than other councils where we have put money into earmarked reserves for projects. The auditor is also very happy that we are at the lower end of 3 months and even dip under it if necessary because we've got earmarked reserves. As we complete those projects, we will need to keep a stronger eye on the general reserves to make sure they're at least 3 months. But yes, all okay so far.
Can I just ask, the legal and professional expenditure, is that to do with dealing with complaints and so on that's being put into the council?
There are two main elements that are coming out of this pot. One is the legal and professional fees related to the football club project, because of course we are
Well,
needing.
That's good, and it's
Yes,
positive.
but yes, there is a fair amount in there that is also coming out of there dealing with the complaints issues that we've had to deal with.
Is it fair to say that those complaints are from councillors who put in those complaints that are causing this expense?
Regrettably, they are, yes.
Right, I think that's important that that's known. Do we know, can we just say of the 14,500, how much is roughly,
Mr. Chairman, sorry, I'm having difficulty hearing. Perhaps if Councillor Proctor, if you'd ask him to talk a bit louder, please.
yeah, I'm calling that the, I was asking what percentage of, or proportion amount of that 14,500 that's been spent on legal and professional fees has been spent on dealing with complaints put in by councillors.
Councillor Proctor, for a very rough figure, I would say it's between, it's possibly about a third, but I would feel comfortable getting you that information and circulating it round, because it's been 10 days since I looked at the figures. I don't remember that long.
Thank you.
Claire, do you think we are going to go over budget for our legal and professional fees this year?
It's tight. It is definitely tight, and it's something that what I will do is bring back to you either in September as we start looking at the budget, or in October when we're looking at Q2. That's going to be a better time to say what we need to do to redress some of the balance.
I'm just worried about that 47% number, that's all.
Yes.
This may be my memory, and it's been quite hot today, so it may be heat stroke, but I thought the legal and professional budget was reduced at the budget setting time and to the budget from the previous year, which off the top of my head was 10, and the surplus was moved into the Manpit Square community project and spent on the good people of Shaftesbury. Am I getting this wrong?
Your memory is correct in as much as the budget was reduced by, I think it was 20,000, but it was about 20 before. So it has been reduced, but possibly not to the extent that you recall. But I can pull all of those figures forward and circulate them round. But you're right, the expectation was that we shouldn't have to spend legal and professional fees dealing on in-house issues, and therefore the council didn't want to budget for that and thereby expect it, in the same way as you don't budget for external audit additional fees, because we know that our financial controls are in good order, and yet we still get those fees come forward because we get challenged.
Yes. Also, the fact that we've spent 15 grand so far, some of which will have been on to facilitate fantastic projects in one quarter, is a colossal amount of ratepayers' money that isn't going on project delivery. That is flagged. Thank you for flagging that. But
No
if you
problem.
could clarify
I
the
will
budget
clarify
figure,
what,
that would be greatly
and
appreciated.
if you want, for the benefit of the public, we can provide that update at full council next week. It's up to you, Chair. Or if you're happy, it just goes round to the committee
I think
members.
should we do it to the committee members to start with?
Yeah.
If any members of the
We
public
can
request
revisit
it, they
this
can
at
have it.
Q2.
Yeah. The next one is, I've got a question around, we've got the precept in for the first 2 quarters. It's slightly shy of 50% of what we budgeted. Does that mean we are expecting a slightly lower amount in this year, or is it weighted to the second payment?
We will get the full amount because it's a legal requirement.
Okay.
It's actually a precept demand rather than a request.
Okay. And the other one is, I note that swimming pool income is above its budget, which is fantastic. That means more people are using the pool. Can we congratulate Ryan and the team on a fantastic job in the season so far?
Absolutely.
And I imagine they are completely inundated with customers at the moment.
Could I take this opportunity then, Chair, as you've raised it, to update members, because Ryan has worked extremely hard getting in additional bookings with the local schools, not just in Shaftesbury, but the surrounding areas. So lots of school swimming lessons as well, which has improved the bookings. So, and we've seen a change in the style of swims this year, not so much of the aquafit, and a lot more of family swims and pre-booked sessions through the schools. So
Brilliant. Hopefully that's more that.
And the online booking system has gone like a rocket.
Fantastic. Yeah, and hopefully that aquafit market will come back as these kind of things start to pick up again, which will be brilliant. Any other questions or comments from members on the report? Tim?
It's not a question or a comment. I just proposed 5.6.1 that we received no.
Okay, and in terms of the second recommendation?
Would you like to become that?
And it very clearly says other than the chairman.
Other than the chair, sorry.
I think I did it last time, so I'd be happy to do it again.
Excellent.
Yes,
I'll second Tim.
So for Zoe's made me aware that dialing in online, she can't necessarily see who's voting. So for the benefit of this, Tim Cook has proposed and Piers Van has seconded.
Excellent. All those in favour? Unanimous.
Thank you.
Number 6, payments. Any questions or queries? Okay, no one's raised anything, so I will propose we pay the bills.
Second, Chair.
Okay,
Thank you.
all
Piers
those
Van, Matt Welch.
all those in favour? Unanimous.
Unanimous, thank you.
We're going to come back to those. A30 allotments. My understanding is the sites are now ready to go out, which is fantastic.
They are, Chair, and not wishing to trump Councillor Chase, but we've come in under budget.
Again, say it again for Kerry. Kerry, are you getting this?
We have come in under budget. So yes, those are ready to let, and the first invitation to take up a plot went out, I think it was the beginning of this week, Chair.
Excellent. The allotment holders policy, is this not one we already have?
So we don't have a policy, Chair. We have an allotment holders agreement for the existing sites that we have.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the Allotment Act 18, I haven't got my book in front of me, 1894, I think, anyway, 1908, was set that any plot holder needs to have a year notice of any change to their agreement.
Okay.
So what we are looking to do is take the opportunity with a new site and make sure that we brought all of our rules and regulations up to pace and have a policy in place. And on adoption of the policy, we can then give a year's notice to our existing plot holders on our existing sites to say this is what the new policy will be for you in a year's time.
Okay. Does anyone have any questions, queries, or suggested edits to the draft policy? Phil?
Right. No, it wasn't about the policy, about the allotment, the new allotments.
Okay.
Just a quick question. When you look at from the traffic light junction at the car park and the path going round, there's a rather nasty concrete block wall that's obviously old, but it's there. Is that strip between the path and the wall going to be planted up with something that will screen it? Because it doesn't look good at the moment.
Absolutely, yes, in the autumn when the plants will take.
But yeah, not now.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I have a question, because I don't think it's in the policy, or maybe I missed it. The cost, because obviously the second recommendation is around how much we charge. Could
Yes.
therefore class what we currently charge
So
our existing.
okay, so just to make you aware, there was an error in the papers that I think we worked out at 80 pence per square metre, and it's £1.60. But that is based on the other plots as well. We've taken St James's site as our benchmark, if you like, but we had previously regularised the Mampit site and the Bray site with that. We are required to make sure that allotments are affordable. They can't be a money-making item. So
Then-
we are in line.
Okay. Then the follow-up question is so my understanding is we do half plots and full plots. How big is half plots in square meters? And then the follow-up question is, what is the cost, including staff time, to administer one per, what's the tenant, for want of a better word?
I haven't broken down the cost per plot per tenant, but the administrative, there's about a week's worth of admin in getting the yearly agreements out, collecting those in and bringing all of our records up to date on an annual basis. And then each plot that's let mid-year, maybe an hour's work per plot. And on top of that, we carry out 2 plot inspections per year on each site. So if you look at maybe 2 days to cover all of the sites for one person, that gives you an idea. If you look at our budget, we haven't split out because we don't do internal
No,
charging.
I understand that. Okay, so what's half a plot in square meters?
I don't know.
If you look at the drawing on the agenda,
Okay,
it's got roughly 15 or 12 metres by 10 metres for a half plot. So that would be about 150 to 125 to 150 square metres.
okay, so that seems like it would cover the admin, if Alex's maths is correct.
At the moment, if we take pre-A30 allotments, the rent covers admin cost and any minor repairs and maintenance that we need to feed into it.
Excellent. Okay, the next question I have is around, as someone who runs a business, there is like a minimum invoice value that is worth sending out because of the admin. Doesn't it not make sense to make or ask our tenants to pay by standing order?
We give them the option to pay digitally, and I'm going to say about 80% do. So it happens digitally. I can ask the question to see if anyone wants to set up a standing order.
Well, because standing orders can be set up in paper form by dropping a letter into the bank for those that don't have online or quite easily online. And I'm just thinking about minimising admin and moving into the 21st century. Because also we don't want our staff having to handle cash, because that comes with a risk, obviously to the organisation, but also to them, because the last thing we want is a couple of quid going missing and it becoming an issue.
Yep.
So I would like to see that included in the policy. Unless anyone can see a reason not to.
Certainly, can't see a reason why we wouldn't recommend that rent be paid by standing order.
No, I'm not saying recommend, I'm saying make it.
I don't think that would be appropriate for the council to do that. We
Why
are providing a service after all.
Yeah, but as I said, there's no barriers to someone paying by standing order.
I think some people would be uncomfortable with it, and I would be uncomfortable with trying to force a method of payment on someone.
I agree with that.
Okay.
But there's no reason why we shouldn't strongly recommend it as our preferred method of payment.
Yeah.
I would say we take the same attitude towards it as the Dorset Council does with council tax. It strongly recommends automatic payment, but realises that there are some people for whom that method is either impractical or unwanted.
And I see people pay in a one-off annual chunk.
Oh, yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, it's an annual fee and it's £20 a year, roughly, per
Alex
tenant.
just said a plot was 150.
Well, it varies. On average, most people have a smaller than full-size plot and their rent is around about £20 a year.
Can't make sense to process 20 quid.
It's all done digitally.
I don't know, anyone else, clearly no one else sort of worries about this stuff. I run a business, so this is the kind of things we worry about.
I think it might be something that's worth looking into, but at this point, I would suggest that we approve the policy on the basis of making standing orders our preferred payment method.
Okay, I'm more than happy to do that. The other thing that comes to mind is the annual rent review, which goes to Rose.
Yes, and that happens as part of budget setting. And again, we have to give a year's notice for any change in rent.
Jeez. Okay, and okay, when that goes to budget setting, can we have a breakdown of the cost profile for administering that, please? So people can make an informed decision. Same with all of our services, assume that applies for markets, etc.
Yeah.
Okay, any other questions or comments? Okay, someone going to propose?
Propose.
Councillor Chase to propose.
Does that include the amendment of strongly recommending?
Recommending standing orders as our preferred payment method.
Yeah, happy to second, Chair.
Councillor Cook, second.
Okay, all those in favour? Excellent.
Unanimous, thank you.
Grant requests. Any questions or comments?
I propose that we should support it. This is the grant signs at St James at Abbey School.
Let me just recheck. We've got the dementia friendly grant request and the signs. So if you remember when Jem last looked at the grants, they wanted more information from the dementia friendly group. So you've now got that information, and you've also then got the recommendation from the Planning and Highways Committee for the signs.
Alex?
Given that we have made, if not a policy decision, then pretty much a policy decision to only ever approve 50% of the costs for a project, I would propose that we offer to fund 50% of the costs of each project.
Okay, I must admit the link didn't work for me for the dementia friendly one, which I probably should have raised it in advance, but I only looked at it yesterday.
I'll read it on my phone.
It's worked for me. Total cost of the project is £780.
Okay.
They are requesting the full amount, but I think it would be appropriate
Okay.
for us to say,
In line with what we did last time.
yeah,
I tend to agree with Councillor
Yeah.
Chase.
I would propose that with the signs that it is only £100. That I'm not sure how the children are supposed to find the other £50. Where I think that we surely ought to be able to afford £100 for these speed signs.
I mean, I'd be inclined to say that raising money is something that students are generally very, very good at. However, if Councillor Proctor feels very strongly on the subject,
You
I'm
can
happy
propose
to,
an amendment.
yeah, if you'd like to propose an amendment to my
Okay.
proposal, Phil.
Anyone going to second the amendment?
I'm more than happy to second that. Is it just the Abbey School grant? Okay, yeah, I'm happy to second.
Okay,
I'll
although,
happily accept that amendment.
Okay, so we can move straight to the substantive
Okay.
vote.
Well, did you?
so it's 50% for dementia friendly and
I thought it was a separate vote. I don't want to vote on both of them together personally, if that's all right.
okay, we can split them up.
In that
So-
case, I'll propose that we go 50% on the
Dementia friendly.
dementia friendly.
Seconder? Tim? All those in favour?
I mean, I still feel like we need to give it all, but yeah.
Okay, so that is 4-4, 1 against. Do you want to propose the second bit?
Well,
That's Phil wants
Phil
to.
said it, so Phil can propose the Abbey School with Matt seconding.
Okay, happy with that? All those in favour? That's unanimous. We are cracking on through this. It's brilliant. Item number 10, Manpits Advisory Committee. I'll say a few words to this if you don't mind. So obviously members will recall that we laid out a process for recruitment at our last meeting or meeting 4. Since then, Bree, Matt and myself had the pleasure of hosting a good number of the community from the eastern part of the town. What we hadn't foreseen when we penciled that diary in, the date in the diary, is how well the England would have done in the football. So it ended up clashing a bit, but despite that, there was a good enthusiastic turnout. Out of that, we have had a number of people put themselves forward. They have been anonymously marked by Bree in line with the scoring matrix signed off at our last committee. This is the formal bit. We're looking for 6 people. There are applicants A through F, scored as appropriate. Therefore, I would like to propose that the recommendations as outlined in the papers, and also congratulate all of the new members of the Mampits Advisory Committee, and so we're looking forward to working with them and the community as we put this really exciting project together. Alex?
Just one question. Can you remind me? I think we said we wanted 8, including 2 councillors. Is that correct?
No, the original members' motion was 6 plus 2 councillors.
6 plus 2 councillors is the same as 8, including 2.
Oh, sorry, I thought you said plus the, my apologies. I've got it. Excellent. I blame Alex. Alex is confusing us with this.
Right, including 2 councillors. Is that correct?
And Matt and I are set as the 2 reps, and then the terms of reference which are linked in the agenda pack. If anyone has any questions or comments, either on that or the scoring matrix now. Excellent. Okay, all those in...
Sorry, can I ask who seconded?
Matt.
Matthew Welsh, thank you.
Excellent. All those in favour? Unanimous? Brilliant.
Can I just add a point, please? Just to remind the committee that the advisory committee will report into the GEM committee.
Yeah.
So it is an advisory committee of the GEM committee. Yeah.
Brilliant. Item 11, temporary pedestrianisation for the Thursday market. Members will be aware of the phenomenal success that temporary pedestrianisation has had for not just businesses, but also we've seen our market almost triple in size, which is absolutely fantastic. Due to that increase in stand holders, it would more than likely be unfeasible to retain all of them while having the road open to 2-way traffic, to avoid some very awkward and difficult conversations where we're having to turn away local small businesses, which I'm sure we would all want to avoid if we possibly can. Do we support a temporary pedestrianisation for the Thursday market? This has been done slightly in post, but there are also a number of outlines around the finances for the COVID pedestrianisation. Alex?
Yes, we do absolutely support this. To fail to do it would be an act of, I don't know if it would be business murder or something, but no, we've seen for ourselves the difference that a pedestrianised high street has made, even when there's no market. Because frankly, it's been horrible over the last 2 days in the high street compared to what it was last week.
Yes.
So I would say, yeah, this is a no-brainer, and I propose that we take it and run with it.
Yes, and hopefully it will be superseded in time by a permanent pedestrianisation supporting businesses and shoppers alike. Matt?
More than happy to second the proposal.
Fantastic.
Can I just see who proposed initially? Thank you.
And that's for both the recommendations in the papers?
Yep.
Excellent. Any other questions or comments before we move to the vote? All those in favour? Unanimous?
Sorry, just a quick question. I believe it's only up till 2 o'clock, isn't it?
Three.
Okay, I've summarised till 2 o'clock.
Yeah. The paperwork's been submitted to the Secretary of State because a recurring temporary TRO has to go to the Secretary of State
It's
for some reason.
slightly different to the TTRO. It's actually a special event licence.
So that's gone up. And have they heard back yet?
I don't know, but they've given us permission.
They've given us permission. It's going to happen on Thursday. Fantastic. Moving quickly, again, ahead of schedule.
Just to come in at that point, our grounds team, who are Chapter 8 trained, will put out all the periphery signage on a Thursday as well as the barriers. We'll have the marshal in place, but just so you're aware, obviously in terms of internal labour costs, that will be higher as well, because we're asking them to do an extra hour's worth of work a week to make sure that we're legally compliant with the signage.
Can I just ask regarding a marshal, how are we dealing with that? Is that a temporary, an agency member of staff? Or
So we've got somebody in place until the end of August, and we'll need to get somebody else in place for the final month.
So my
Final month.
Well,
Actually, it's
still,
continuing, isn't it?
we've got until the end of September.
So at the moment, the licence is granted until the end of September. But again, the committee will then need to review the progress of the market and the temporary pedestrianisation to then extend it further, because we're going to go into the winter months, and therefore there may be a requirement to reduce it or extend it as per the experience over the next few weeks.
These things, this went through quite quickly. You know, these things sometimes take a while to do. Do we need to put the September one in now? Because it's not long.
No, I think we need to personally, I think we need to review this week and next week, and then
Then do it.
take a judgment.
We do naturally see a drop off of stall holders when we get into the slightly more inclement weather anyway. So it might be the case that it's decided by the committee that the event temporary closure isn't needed once we start getting more rain than sun.
Okay, any other questions or comments on the TRO before we move on? Okay, moving on, item number 12, the Youth Club lease. Would anyone like to add, Tim, you've been fronting part of this?
We had, myself, Phil and Bree had a very constructive meeting with the Youth Club Management Committee. To begin with, we did get a lot of, for want of a better word, brain dump. What they thought that we were doing there, what they thought the position was. And I think it was acknowledged by all of us that there had been a lot of miscommunication. Not any miscommunication that was deliberate, but assumptions had been made by both sides, I think, and those assumptions were talked out with some emotion in some cases, and we were able to explain the position, because I think without that pretty blunt explanation, we wouldn't have got anywhere. Bree did a wonderful job of putting the council's legal position. Phil and I listened to what the people from the management committee had to say, and certain things did come out that they felt that the council and the councillors didn't really take an interest. That's what the initial assumption was, that we were there almost to say, that's it, we're closing you down, we're moving on, we're taking the building back.
To make it very clear that is not.
Absolutely,
yes.
And that's the hill that we had to climb to begin with at the beginning of that meeting, is to assure those people who have been doing exceptional work within the community, Little Giants, Youth Club, and all the other community groups that use that hall. They showed us the diary of all the groups and the events that were going on, and it was virtually full from here till whenever. So councillors need to recognise that that hall is an amazing resource, and it is run currently by volunteers. They feel that there isn't the connection with the council, and that's something that I hope, as we move forward in this process, councillors actually go along, visit, and not take an active part in what's going on there, but actually look at what's going on there, show their face. That's each and every one of our 12 councillors. Phil, you're on.
I was going to say that there's a reason for that, because not everybody may be aware, but the council back in the 60s, I believe, leased the land only to the Dorset Association of Boys Clubs. and the boys' clubs then built the hall and have run it and maintained and everything else. So as far as the council is concerned, it's been at least turf. What's happened is that when the Association of Boys Clubs fell in, the building then passed back to the council, and at that point, the property should have been leased to whatever the group is that actually is there, which is one of the issues that we're trying to work through. So that there's a proper internal repairing lease where the council is then responsible for the shell and they're responsible for the inside, and then the council can take more interest in the hall. So historically, there was no point because the council had no interest in it. It was just that. So the situation is well underway to being regularised with a draft lease. There's some slight adjustments and sort of dotting I's and crossing T's with regard to the trust which is going to operate the hall, because the hall is actually the most used hall in Shaftesbury in terms of its bookings, and between ourselves in the public meeting, in fact, the hall really deserves to have some concentrated thought about how it can be improved, because it looks a mess from the front, and I think that all the users deserve our council giving it attention to make it up something that we're all pleased to have. And it serves a big community, and because it's largely young people's groups, from particularly tops up to youth club and slightly beyond, by definition, the majority of those families are probably living in the Maltings. So I think it's worth noting that that club is serving the whole of Shaftesbury, but particularly probably the eastern side. And I think we want to try and improve it and make it better. And so the steps are that we're looking to have a 1-year temporary lease just to regularise the situation while we dot I's, cross T's and finalise who everybody's going to be. And then I would propose that we should have a small subcommittee looking at the needs of the users and the plan of the building. And part of doing this work, we should have the same ways we're having for the town hall. We need to have a building survey to just record the state of it. It's about time we did that for the youth club building, to record, because the roof, I just declare a small interest in that 35 years ago, I looked at tarting it up and putting a new front on it and making it more approachable. And it hasn't got any better in 35 years. The roof, I thought at the time, 35 years ago, probably needed...
Sorry to confirm, did you get the contract or not?
No, they didn't do it. That's why it's in this sort of just interesting passing, but it's interesting actually. That roof 35 years ago probably needed replacing and certainly needs insulation and upgrading. The club has spent a lot of money and a lot of effort replacing windows, replacing cladding and doing insulation in parts. Obviously, because they haven't done everything, as they can, they've done a bit of work. One of the points that probably I go into too much detail. That's basically we need to review the building in progress. But Bree's done a great job in bringing everybody together. And what's interesting after the meeting, I think all of the trustees who were present emailed Bree and said, "Great meeting. Glad we're all working on board. Let's move forward." So I recommend that we should proceed with the lease and set up work out how we're going to analyse it further. But I think probably the first thing is to get the survey done on the building, and we could probably lump it in with getting a quote for the survey for this building. They can do two for the same price, but we can do two at the same effort.
Bree, is there anything you wish to add?
Just to bring to life section 12.1.8, the youth club operates for 4 hours a week. Little Giants operates for 2 hours a month. Yes, it's called the Shaftesbury Youth Club, and so there's a misunderstanding out there that actually it's more than a youth club, it's actually a community centre, hence why there is the drive to introduce an umbrella organisation to look after the building, its maintenance, its bookings, its compliance, its governance. And then the youth club operates from within that organisation and essentially then becomes the tenant. So there's a lot more compliance and governance with the umbrella organisation, and as a responsible landlord, we would want to support them on that journey. And we've already had 6 people come forward to say they're very interested in being trustees in the new umbrella organisation.
Brilliant.
So that's a really positive start, but actually to get them from position A to position B, which is the short-term lease, to get them to then move to position C, is going to require support and guidance. I'm sure the youth club would be very happy for me to say that they do need that help, and they can't do it without us or without our support. So that's one consideration, is that yes, it's about putting the plans into place to get the lease now, but it's also a wider piece of work that will require a support function to get them to the required place. So it's now and the future you need to be considering, because there's a lot for the committee to consider, because the building is tired and will need some support to get it to a more functioning position.
Alex?
So on the recommendations, we have recommended to full council to approve a 1-year lease, which is fair enough. Do we also need to be approving a survey then at this point, if it will cost £2,000? So that's within our delegated spend for the committee. Is that something that would be useful for us to decide now, or is that too soon?
My view is we get the lease sorted first as step one.
Fine.
Let's get that underway, give them the confidence that they can operate as they have been properly for the next year, and then probably September, October time, that's when we then start to move that forward.
Can I just add, to help with safety, I wonder whether we ought to be getting an electrical check, a fire alarms check, and a review of fire escape arrangements. Because I think that if we're responsible landlord, whatever we might think about improvements and rain coming in and whatever those things are, fire detection, fire escape, safety of electrical really is important. And you could say that's part of an internal repairing lease, but I think it's also part of a sort of landlord's job is to make sure that the basic electrics are there.
I've just been advised by the clerk that her recommendation is that we look at going down the route of getting the lease in place. That then gives us the framework to understand who is responsible for getting that stuff done. If it is us, she can cover it under delegated authority, and it comes within budget. It would more likely come within budget.
But it's our responsibility now, and it has been, but we should have been doing this years ago.
So if I can just explain that, having had the meeting 2 weeks ago, I've subsequently spoken to the youth club, and they're very happy to keep it under the current arrangement with the 1-year lease, which gives us the time to work together on a bigger solution for the future. Keep it as it is.
As landowners, building owners, if children fry, if there's a fire, we're responsible. I think it's absolutely important that we should be satisfying ourselves that that building is safe. And I don't see how we can do it unless we do fire check, electrical check, and fire escape check.
So I can take that straight back tomorrow to our health and safety external advisors, and it will be a simple case of if we're responsible, we'll get that booked in immediately, and if they're responsible, we will be making recommendations to them that that's what they need to get done as a matter of priority.
Tim, then Alex.
Well, Phil's made a proposal. I would second it, and I would strongly ask that all members of the committee do resolve to recommend to full council that we go down this route, because I feel that if we don't, we set a small organisation with a massive footprint adrift, and I wouldn't want to countenance that. So hopefully all members are in agreement that this goes ahead.
Alex?
I was going to say exactly the same thing. Well, not quite so eloquently, but the same thing.
Any other comments from anyone? Okay, we have a proposer in
Proctor.
Phil and then seconder in Tim. All those in favour? Unanimous.
Thank you.
Claire has an action point in relation to health and safety stuff.
I do.
Before we move on, sorry.
Just one question, sorry,
Yeah.
Chairman. Have we ironed out completely who owns the building?
Yes.
We do now, do we?
We will sort that out.
realise.
We have for years since the youth clubs went bust, came back to us.
We'll come back to you with the details.
Thank you. Yeah.
But the summary is we own it. Yeah.
Yeah, we've managed to get some historic paperwork going back decades, which explains quite clearly where our position on it.
Excellent. Before we move on this on a similar item, could the next GEM committee, could we have a report outlining all of our land and to what organisation it has been leased or has tenants? Obviously, I don't want to sort of break down individual allotment plots. I'm just thinking football club, cricket club, youth club, etc., so that we can make sure that if there are other organisations we need to support through this process, that we can identify those.
Yes.
And the other thing is, could we also have the annual lease payments or something, but they will be confidential?
Okay.
So we can understand that, because obviously that's going to be a discussion that's going to have to take place, so that needs to be benchmarked.
Yeah, most of these leases, particularly, most of these leases are extraordinarily long. They're usually 30, 50 years long.
And also based on the community value the organisation is giving.
Chairman, would that not sit within the asset register?
Yes.
I'm just asking for a specific update, because what we don't want is issues like this reoccurring.
Yeah.
So let's have a specific thing, even if it's a report and note. Because
For instance, the same questions that we've just been discussing with the youth club, do they apply to the bowling club?
yeah, can we also have on that confirmation that the land registry identifies us as owners of all of that? I know that we're working through some items that we've held in time memoriam and getting those registered. I understand. Could we have an update on that position, please?
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
May I ask one question?
Yeah, of course.
So historically, the youth club have paid £100 a year rent. They are happy to pay an enhanced amount. This is a temporary lease for the next year. Could you give some direction in terms of what you're expecting that to look like, so that when I prepare the full council papers, that
At the very least, on the long term, I would expect it to be in line with other similar community groups.
it's just
Personally,
it's for the 1 year lease?
yeah, for the 1 year.
Can I suggest that it stays at what it is at the moment, because we are keeping the status quo as it is at the moment?
Just a matter of interest on that, if that hall was run like this town hall is done, where the town council staff clean it, put it out, maintain it, do bookings for it, if we had to do that one as well, that would be a huge cost. So we could argue that instead of paying rent, they're actually running it for us, and therefore actually that's saving us a lot of money, which is a value in lieu of rent.
Yeah, so we will have to take that into account.
Keep that in mind.
Yeah. Okay, any other questions or comments on the youth club before we move on? Okay, item number 13, 106 contribution. First of all, can I say how brilliant it is that Dorset Council are so keen to work in partnership with us, that they're now coming to us around 106 money, which they then expect us to help them spend. So we can make sure we have that joined up thinking. So that's credit to both the councillors and the staff for that relationship. I've got Alex, Phil, then, no, okay, Alex and then Tim.
Yes, this is, as you say, fantastic news, Chair. I've been doing a lot of talking to the youth of the town recently, specifically relating, I've been going to school, having chats with them about various items. One thing that has come up quite consistently is that the current skate park is not as good as it could be. I would strongly recommend that we look into improving that, providing more variety and more scope for the young people of the town. And yeah, that would be a fantastic way to spend some of this money. I don't think it would be a huge amount proportion of the money, but we can definitely do something good here. And potentially I would like to see a lot of the consultation work done with the young people at the school as part of a project that has been mentioned on this in Alfred recently, which is the youth council that we're building.
Yeah. Excellent. Tim?
Can I strongly suggest that we take a steer from our last Rose meeting where we were looking at the Space for Girls, sorry, and take that into account, almost take that policy as an overarching policy whenever we look at any recreational facility that is coming up for renewal within the town, that we make absolutely certain that we are we're putting in the right stuff. Because I'll say it again, I was very surprised when I read what I read in that PDF. And we've got to do our best for everybody. We can't just assume. But if Alex is talking to the young people, maybe possibly you could promote that document as well to young people so that they know that there is a choice.
It's something that we have actually raised at the school and will continue to do so during the course of the youth council work that we're doing there. But yeah, I'm happy listening.
I have a question in relation to 13.3.2. The line that reads, none of the projects listed above have been fully costed. Once the committee provide a steer on project that's selected for consideration by Dorset Council, these will need to be costed as part of the submission process. Does that relate to the submission to be the nominated project to which the pot of money is assigned, or is that part of the drawdown request? Because my concern is we need to cost that in advance.
The former.
Okay, good.
So I realise you don't actually know who to
Yeah,
prefer.
yeah.
You're playing ping pong there.
Can I just say one thing? So it's quite a tight turnaround because the committee will need to provide a steer in terms of what projects they want to go forward, because Dorset Council will require those projects to be costed by the end of this month. So it's a very tight turnaround.
We've actually been discussing quite a lot of things, such as the band hall expansion, which is to provide music practice rooms for young people. So it's not just the band, it's these individual people who get involved in music and so on. So that I would suggest is one good project. We've got the youth club building, which serves the whole town. We've also got Mampits Park, which needs to have facilities. That's slightly remote from Wincom, given that this is to do with the site in Wincom Lane. But the Wincom Park, some of those areas of equipment reach the end of their life, and maybe some of the funds could go to new ideas, new thinking at Wincom.
I've got one concern to start with, which is that 106 pots end up being defined now, and they won't more likely be drawn down for a number of years. So what's the earliest we can draw down these funds? Or, well, assuming that this all depends on whether the builder decides to build out, doesn't it?
It does. So the Section 106 agreements are contractual between the developer and the planning authority. Mm-hmm. And then there is usually trigger points on how many roof heights you've got to as to when some of that money then gets released, because it's basically supporting the infrastructure as people move in. So it does depend on how quickly they then go. So this is the Wincom Lane development. It depends on how quickly they go in and actually get those houses up. And then historically, and I'm going to assume that it's going to be the same for this, there is then approximately 10 years where once they're built and that money's been collected, it sits within that pot ready for
and after
drawdown.
10 years we lose it.
It goes back to the, it can go
Obviously,
back to
none
the
of us
developer.
would want, So my concern is that we define a project, and in 5 years' time, when the funds become available, that's no longer necessarily a priority, or that we've decided to fund that anyway. How can we ensure there's flexibility within this request so that we aren't tying our options
But
down the line?
these four are all in the current strategic plan, so they're all adopted projects.
Yeah, but what I'm saying, for example, if we wanted to improve the skate park, which is something we want to do, and we have to wait 5 years for the money from this potential development to become available, I don't think we should be waiting 5 years to be doing that. And what I don't want to see is projects put on the shelf because there is the possibility of additional funding coming down the line. So what if we decide to take the plunge and fund that all ourselves now as a hypothetical? You can see my concerns here. How do we ensure there's flexibility? Should we be actually requesting that instead of the skate park improvements, which I think are absolutely fantastic, we definitely need, look at the skate park they have in Dorchester or Blandford, for example, and look how popular our current ones. Should that be outdoor active leisure or something?
Yeah,
something really woolly?
Can I suggest that while we suggest these projects to Dorset Council, we request that the money be earmarked for outdoor recreational facilities, which will provide, whether it's these projects or projects down the line, we will always need money to improve the facilities in this town.
How does that fit with the process?
So they've been quite specific in terms of the request that they want fully costed projects. However, we can build that in to explain exactly that situation, that actually, the skate park as an example, if the Wincom Lane development means that the funds are not accessible until 2024, and the consultation says that we need to get that done in 2022, then we need the flexibility to be able to then go into the next one of the projects.
One big thing for me is Wincom Recreation Ground. I think we need to prioritise that. Number one, because of how close it is to this development. Two, there are great opportunities to do more and improve the facilities we have there. It's looking a bit tired. It needs to be on our priority
from
list.
one of my colleagues that it'd be very cheap to stick some lines down and put some new goals on the football pitch part of that.
Yes, and we can humour some of our colleagues all evening, but it definitely is a little bit tired there, and it has such great potential, and I think we just need to realise that with the community, and particularly if that will be the closest large-scale outdoor recreation space to this development. It seems right that we're trying to link those two together, but again, what I don't want is us having to fight 5, 7, 10 years for that, because that needs to be done in the next few years.
Can I make
Phil and then Alex?
If you come back into the town on Wincom Lane, to Barton Hill, is a swimming pool. That is a facility that we ought to be looking to extend its operation through the year with a retractable roof. And I know we keep coming on about it, but maybe this is a 106 that could be put towards the swimming pool roof, which I guess is going to be around about 100,000 now. We could have done it for 80,000, but it was the euro was weaker. But I think it's going to be about 100,000, and I think that would be that's costed. Their old costs updated. That would be probably sufficient. Would we put in for that?
I think we'd also need the other 40,000 to be able to run the swimming pool for that time. I think we would be better off using this money to improve the outdoor facilities that we have at the moment. So can I propose that we start off by requesting for the Wincom Recreation Facility ground and skate park? I think we can probably do both with the money, but that also we request that Dorset Council, if they have to earmark it for something, make it for outdoor recreational facilities.
Can we delegate to Clark to work out the finite stuff, because there's going to need to be flexibility in that negotiation position?
It's from my understanding that the consultation for the skate park project would extend to all areas of the town rather than just the Mampets consultation.
I would think so, yes.
Yeah.
I would particularly like the youth council to be involved, so it would be all areas. Yeah. So yeah, that's my proposal.
More than happy to second.
So you don't want to consider netball/tennis courts or community facilities in this request?
It depends how much we think the first two are going to cost. If they're going to cost
just
£70,000 each, then there's no point in.
Yeah.
So in the strategic plan review that you're going to get at full council next Tuesday, in there you will already see that Wincom Rec has already been Section 106 funds have already been ring fenced from existing Section 10 pots that are already there. Now, obviously, it all depends on Dorset Council and the decision that is made in view of the application that's already in. But the council has already essentially highlighted funding of 120 odd grand within the Section 106 existing pots.
For Wincom Recreation.
Yes.
Okay, from the red road development.
No, from a development that's been sitting, one of the old developments.
Okay.
So again, that it could be that is then moved around to accommodate other projects.
Another thought takes, for example, something like the potential of having tennis courts. That's something that we need a ongoing business case to support. And that's why it's on the strategic plan, so we can look at that, see if it's something that is sustainable, and then if it is, then look to go ahead. How do we truncate that process over the next few weeks?
We could, Chair, make contact with Griffin Tennis Academy, because they had approached this council, perhaps it was 6-7 years ago, to see if there was anything we could do to help them with tennis court provision. They then paired up with the secondary school and got additional pitches there, but I understand that has now become, either the tennis club has outgrown the spaces available, or, so we can make contact and get an understanding of what the demand is.
My concern is, how do we build that business case to know it's something we definitely want to go ahead with before we request that money is ring fenced for that project?
At this point, I can't tell you the answer to that.
Okay, so my concern is something like that may not be appropriate to source. The funding may not be appropriate to come from this source. Understand?
Is there any data that we've got through the neighbourhood plan process to find out what recreation facilities were high on people's lists?
So the outdoor sports provision is way below what we should be for a town of our size. So there's definitely outdoor sports provision that is needed, but to shape what that looks like, that will require more consultation.
More consultation, right?
Yeah. And just to build on the Griffin Tennis Academy, that was serving 150 children a week before it had to relocate to the Don Heads because the contract with the school had come to an end.
I was just wondering again whether it would be worth going to Dorset Council, and it's probably a no, but you never know, it might actually become financially viable if we can pitch it to them. That there are those tennis courts at St Mary's. Would it be wise to approach Dorset Council to say, in lieu of Section 106 money specifically for building new tennis courts, that they extend the right of the community and Griffin Tennis to use the tennis courts at St Mary's? It's a long shot and it probably gets shot down on safeguarding issues, but it's worth.
It's exactly what they're asking.
It may be that there is a better benefit to Dorset Council than I.
Aren't you on the working group for St Mary's?
The working group for St Mary's has ceased to be, and now that it's become a project, now that it's gone ahead.
My concern, and you may tell me that I'm unduly concerned about this, is that Dorset Council would hear we don't need the money and not hear the rest of the question.
Yes, and the other added problem is that could be withdrawn at any point unless there were a binding legal agreement for us to do it. But I don't know, is it?
No, it's a very good point. We ought to be pushing for, county have asked for expressions of interest for community use of the St Mary's site, and we haven't put in our foot in the door.
We're getting off topic of what we're meant to be
It's relevant
discussing.
because this Section 106 money could be to develop facilities at the St Mary's site for the town council and people of Shaftesbury to use, which we need some discussion with county as to what can be used, how it can be used, etc. It could be that we actually need a 106 towards making a cycleway, footway from the Wincom Lane and Mampits Lane down to the St Mary's site, perhaps.
You'd be lucky.
The footpath is hard enough to cross.
Exactly, yeah.
There's exactly this
Over
footpath
private
there,
land.
but it might be that if the footpath needs to be improved, not a problem.
I think we're getting slightly off topic if I may be so
Well,
bold.
Section 106 projects which are needed for outdoor leisure. Well, this is exactly it, getting people to St Mary's where there's so many facilities already there, with this, and the special needs school is not going to be using those facilities 24 hours a day, which means that there's a lot of chance for those facilities to be used by our community, by people of Shaftesbury, and therefore really that's quite an important thing. So I would propose that we should be making contact with the county to say, yes, we are interested. You've asked, we are interested. Where do we go from here?
At the moment,
have you
you've got
spoken
to
to them
put,
about it?
well, I'm aware that they were approached about the possibility of using it for additional facilities, and my memory of the report was that for the first year only, they were going to just keep it as a school and then they would be reassessing. But I'm not Dorset Council, I can't give you the detail on that one. All I was going to come in and say is that at the moment we've got a proposal and the second are on the table. So just to sort of bring it back to the discussion about that proposal, which was skate park improvements and Wincom Rec.
Okay, that's proposed and seconded. Does anyone want to put any amendments into that?
With a couple of big etceteras on the back.
Yeah, I think it's worth asking the question that and words to the effect that the clerk under delegated power approaches Dorset Council to see if there is any saving to be made on section 106 to allow community use of sports facilities at St Mary's.
I don't think we're saving out.
I'll pick some words.
Yeah.
And Claire, would a chap with Mark Blackman, who is the well, he's actually
Selborne.
he's either director or something equivalent of the trust, but he's the guy that will know who to talk
That's
to.
the point. It is a private trust.
Yeah.
But Dorset Council.
Matt?
I really don't think asking Dorset Council for the use of community facilities in lieu of our section 106 money to be spent on the town, because I understand with the great will in the world of creating a cycleway, I mean, walking down to St Mary's, down that track, impossible, it's not going to happen.
That's why
For people in the town without cars, if we put our section 106 money into this St Mary's school, they're not going to benefit from it. They're not going to be able to go there.
Yeah, they will, that's the whole point. The county is saying they want the school site, the St Mary's site, to have community use. And actually, it's very close to all the estates. It's less than a quarter of a mile.
I mean,
and there are public footpaths, and if those public footpaths were made into cyclable footways, which is quite conceivable, but there's cost attached, actually that could be a very useful way to link facilities.
Okay, so we've had an amendment.
Sorry, I was still making my point.
Okay.
Apologies, but what I'm trying to say is that I personally believe that this money should be spent on the outdoor facilities, but it also should be on kids' doorsteps. I'm sorry, but when I was 7 or 8 years old, no chance would I be walking to St Mary's. It seemed like 10 miles away, 15 miles away to me. I would go out to the youth club park and play there because it was right next to where I lived. So I'm sorry, I feel like it's going down a dark route where we're not really serving our town properly. I believe we can request use of these facilities without hampering our section 106 spending power.
But if you live at the Maltings estate, for instance, it's actually nearer to St Mary's than it is to the youth club. That's why it really is relevant to.
Okay, I think we're going a little bit round in circles, so let's go to the vote. We have a proposed amendment that's been proposed and seconded, which has, we're not going to reiterate it. All those in favour? That's 2 in favour. All those against? That's 3 against. Sorry, that's 4. Okay, back to the original proposal. Would anyone like to make any different amendments? Okay, perfect. I can't remember who it was proposed and seconded by, but
It was Councillor Chase proposed, Councillor Welch seconded.
Okay.
For yeah, those first two on the papers.
The first two on the papers. Okay, lovely. All those in favour? Unanimous.
Unanimous, thank you.
Thank you very much. That then takes us back to planning apps, because that's the last bit. Tim, enjoy your tea. Think of us.
It's lovely seeing you, Tim.
Yeah, you too.
What are you having?
I don't know yet.
Oh, that's,
You mean it's being made for you?
oh, that's the dream, isn't it?
Possibly not, actually.
Thank you for your attendance this evening, Tim.
Yeah.
Always lovely to see
Thank
you,
you.
even better to see you in person. And we will see you next Tuesday for full council.
Okay, this is where it pulls out the wrong plug.
Okay.
Okay, I mean, if you want to squint, you can see it on the screen there. You don't want to squint. Okay, so I'm just going to bear with me, Chair, while I go back to the right page on the agenda set as well.
There, this is the correct. This is 7.2.1 application number ending 302.
Perfect. Okay, so the agricultural storage barn. Let me know if there's anyone that you want me to pause on or go back to.
Any comments? It looks like a small little barn in a field. Matt?
Can I propose no objection?
Okay, anyone on a second? Alex, all those in favour of no objection? Excellent. 7.2.2, application ending 540.
I had a look at this one in detail, and the present conservatory is not particularly attractive, but it's quite a low pitch roof, but it's a conservatory. If you look at the drawing, it looks like it's a pitched roof on the extension, but actually it's a big flat roof at the back, and it's sort of a flat roof on the bay at the front. And the roof material is basically crinkly plastic, or it's maybe more sophisticated twin or plastic sheet. So my comment is that the roof materials don't seem suitable for the listed building, and the pitch therefore is too low for more traditional materials. I can't understand why they don't just put a slightly steeper roof, because the glazed roof is going to be half over one room and half over the other room. It seems very odd.
Could you go back to what it's like currently, please? Are you sure that's not what it's going to do? Are they making the conservatory a lot smaller?
So they're putting basically putting a bay window with a flat roof.
So they're proposed? Yeah, so they're making it an awful lot smaller, aren't they?
Maybe just say no objection then.
Yeah, it's just normally people make their property bigger, don't they, when they do something like this? And you can see why I'm confused.
Because I live right opposite this house, and I think that
Future?
looks much better.
Yeah. Phil, would you like to summarise your thought process into a recommendation?
No objection.
Okay, lovely. Seconded. All those in favour?
Is that Matthew's second?
Yeah, that's unanimous. 7.2.3, application ending 018.
It's worth noting that this application is outside the Shaftesbury boundary.
Okay.
It's also quite a long way out. But basically, if you look at the site plan there, where the red line sort of has a nibble out in the top left, that's the Wessex water tanks mounds up at the top before you start to drop down assembly. So this is actually beyond Wincom Lane, that yellow road.
The one that goes off
at
the top of
bottom, that's
Seventh,
Wincom
yeah.
Lane. So even if you're going to get some sort of revving noise from things going on the site, there's a lot of land between here and then you get to Travis and Perkins sheds, and then you've got more space to get to houses. So.
And given that it's for electrical items, I would hope that there won't be too much revving noise either.
Oh, electric pipes, yes. Thank you, sorry.
Have there been many comments on
Let's see if I can.
Portal.
That's
Just
the
to come in, it is a Wiltshire application.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we've just been asked to comment as the adjoining town.
Great facilities for youngsters in Shaftesbury who've got electric bikes.
Currently, no comments.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's see.
How long has it been up there?
Oh no, there aren't.
Ow,
Showing.
sorry.
Okay, so yeah, actually there are.
Yeah,
Further
it
back.
says,
So
it says
we're
there are,
rearranging the.
and then it says there are.
Okay, so if I just pick the first couple as an example. Just no files.
Could be worse with the Dorset Council one.
I don't like to say it, Chair, but I think Dorset is better.
Yeah, I can't actually. So we have an objection, but I can't find any comments next to it. This one is an objection, and the comments, I'm just going to try and load.
Donhead Parish object due to the junction and the land being within the AONB. Is that in fact the case?
It would be OMB.
Causing much pollution.
Increased, doesn't line up, I'm sorry, like motocross, that enterprise would increase significantly due to Wincom Business Estate. It's already a development. Yes, there are comments on the portal, but they are on the, obviously, as we've said, the Wiltshire site.
Yes. In general, it's objected to.
I thought it might be.
Wiltshire Wildlife Trust objection on the basis of the impact on an outstanding area of ecological importance. I'm just trying to pick out some of the specifics rather than individual comments, but those where we might seek professional expertise. That seems to be the ones. Campaign to protect CPRE have objected. Site is within the Cranbourne Chase area of outstanding natural beauty, and the policy should protect, conserve, and where possible enhance landscape character and not have a harmful impact.
A lot of the comments I hear seem to suggest that this is retrospective. If I missed something, I don't. Okay.
It looks like there is already a circuit there.
Consultation deadline tomorrow.
There has been some building work done over the last 6 months or so. I cycle along there fairly regularly, and it's quite sort of far into the field. I mean, it's definitely unfinished. It doesn't look as if it's useful, but there has been some sort of rough landscaping done.
Okay. Okay. Well,
location. Nobody's near it in terms of neighbours to be disturbed by. It's a track. There's nothing particularly permanent. I thought it was actually quite a good facility. It's not going to harm the environment of the AONB. They've just built 150 houses on the AONB across the road. That affects the AONB. This really doesn't. I think that we should be looking at it as something that's brilliant for youngsters in the town.
My thought processes are that I don't see an issue with the traffic. The entrance and exit looks very logical onto a road which has very few traffic movements anyway. My only thought would be, should we request that the vehicles are electric to minimise noise
And
pollution?
I would also suggest that there be some time limitation on use to prevent light pollution from the site. Since the AOB is well known as a dark skies reserve, it would seem silly to then say, let's stick some floodlights up, which they may well decide they want to do, to have it at night.
So we object if floodlights were proposed in the future.
Yeah, or we could say no objection with the proviso that all activity be between, I don't know, you could, yeah, in daylight hours.
Okay, shall we? So we've got. Let's wrap that all together then. So, are we thinking no? How do we comment without objecting?
We say no objection.
No objection. Thank you. That's it. I got off planning. There's a reason why. But we would like the following caveats applied: that the vehicles, the vehicles that use the tracks are electric. Only to reduce any potential noise pollution, and that any artificial lighting can only be used during daylight hours to reduce light
Yes,
pollution.
as far as to say is no artificial lighting can be used and activities can only occur in daylight hours.
Okay.
No artificial lighting, activities, daylight hours only.
Which will mean on a day like today, they can carry on for ages.
Yeah, till 10:30 at night.
But in the winter, when it's dark, that will not be an issue.
Okay.
So I'd like to propose that.
Anyone going to second? Phil seconding. All those in favour? Excellent. Unanimous. Lovely. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for coming. For members of the public's information, the Town Council is solely a consultee on any planning applications. We don't get to decide them. We have exactly as much say as you or any other member of the public. So if you feel strongly, please do write to Dorset or Wiltshire Council as appropriate. Thank you. And thank you for coming, everyone. And we will